So today we are talking through how to build a dope progress tracker for your clients. So one, you can hold them accountable, get them crazy consistent, and help them achieve the best results possible within online coaching. So I'm literally walking you through the tracker that I created for my clients. And truly, I always tell my clients on the initial call, the most important thing, or like if we can align one behavior or correlate one behavior with you getting great results out of coaching, it is filling out your progress tracker super consistently. Truly, because I've never had a client fill out their tracker with crazy consistency that hasn't gotten great results. Because the reality is, if we're consistent with all these habits that we're tracking here, if you're consistent with that within coaching, this is essentially a simple math problem. We eliminate all the guessing from, okay, am I making progress? Is what I'm doing with my nutrition working, or is it not working? We get rid of questions like that. Anytime progress does stall, first of all, we know exactly what your progress looks like, how your body composition is changing. And two, this tracker helps us identify, if you're not making progress, exactly where the issue could be. And so we can remedy the problem right away. All right, so I'm literally just going to work through this entire tracker. And after you give this video a watch, feel free to drop any questions in the comments below. I'm happy to help. All right. So of course, when I bring on a new online client, fill all this out right out of the gate. So these are really just a few notes for me. And of course, like when the client is going to check in, which will typically be Mondays or Tuesdays. And then in my initial coaching questionnaire, I ask a question, how can I be the best coach possible for you? And I get a ton of great details here that really tie into the art of coaching and really show me so much about how I can help clients achieve better results. So people will say things like, I need tough love. I want to learn as much as possible from this. I want a ton of education. And the goal of my online coaching is always educating as much as possible. But this even more so gives me like this gives me a good understanding of what the client needs, like how I can best push them. So maybe I just need empathy and compassion when I fall off track. So that's very, like, how I would handle that client is very different than how I would handle the client that says, like, I need tough love, for example. So here, the things that stand out to me the most, I make a note of right here, education. So that, like, every time I'm interacting with this client, I can make sure, like, how they mention they want me to interact with them to coach them best, how they'll respond best is always at top of mind for me. So that's very important. From here, and these are not like set in stone macros. These are just numbers I threw in here. But here is where I have the client set their macros. So this is pretty dope. We just drop this in here. Got the macros there. So it auto populates their daily average, and then we get their weekly averages. So I have my clients, if a client's tracking all their macros, we're tracking protein, carbs, fat, with the goal of being within 10 grams of protein and carbs and 3 to 5 grams fat. And then I like to have people more and more, and this is relatively new to me and honestly something I picked up from working with Revive Stronger. And the reality is, like, with this tracker as a whole, I have to give credit to both Tailored Coaching Method and Revive Stronger. This is very much like a culmination of the things that I like in both their progress trackers that I took and made my own. So again, credit to both Revive Stronger, Steve Hall's team, and Tailored Coaching Method, Cody McBroom's team. Again, a lot of this is literally just pieces I like from their trackers that I made my own. So again, like your daily averages will show up here. Your weekly averages or your client's weekly averages show up here. And then we have the same thing for like your fiber here, just to make sure, okay, our clients are selecting lots of satiated foods, because the reality is they get hit their calorie goal here. But if they're not choosing like very filling satiated foods, if they are very low on fiber, we'll know, okay, that's typically something where, like, okay, hunger will probably be pretty high. So if we focus on bumping up this number, we can reduce this number. Little things like that are crazy helpful. For all my fat loss clients, we're going to track steps. The reality is, as you've probably noticed, your body or your clients' bodies don't necessarily want to lose fat, right? So one of the sneaky things our body does to try to prevent fat loss in a fat loss phase is, since we are taking in fewer calories, your body senses that and subconsciously will reduce movement or will reduce levels of need. So little things like fidgeting, pacing, blinking will go down, which account for less calories burned. So therefore, we can get in a very frustrating situation where clients are eating fewer calories, but also they're moving less without realizing it, so they're not burning as much fat. So this is one thing that I track that not a lot of coaches do that makes a big difference. Now, I think this is getting more and more popular because people are really realizing how important NEAT is. But truly, like, if we see you're hitting your calorie goals here, but this number is dipping down and down and down, and fat loss isn't moving, we very much know why. Similarly here, like if you're not hitting your macros, we have a pretty good understanding of why weight might not be shifting down or why measurements might not be shifting down. Here we have weight at least 3 times a week. Now the reality is, if you just had your clients weigh in once a week, numbers would always be all over the place, because your client's weight will fluctuate so much depending on what they ate yesterday. Did they have a saltier meal? Did they have a hard training session? Did they sleep very little? Is digestion off? Is stress high? All these things can have a huge impact on where weight's at. So I have my clients take weight at least 3 times a week so we can get an average here. And then across the course of weeks, this number, which again, all this auto populates into an average. So across weeks, I look at their weekly average weight, and that's a lot more so what I take into account than these individual variations or these day-to-day fluctuations. And really, this is a lot more what I make adjustments off of. We have hours of sleep. Just because if somebody is undersleeping, this is going to be a lot harder. When we sleep less, you're not going to be able to train as hard. Recovery is going to be worse. You're going to be less likely to expend as much energy. When we sleep less, your body releases more of the stress hormone cortisol. Alongside that, ghrelin, the hunger hormone, is going to rise as well, which of course is going to make sticking to your diet a lot harder. So again, like if we're not accounting for hours of sleep and we just see like, man, this client keeps missing their macros and I don't know what's going on. Steps are in the trash. Like, if we're not tracking this, that's a big piece of their life, a big piece of the results that we're missing out on. And often when clients are missing out on sleep, then this leads me to adding another column here. So for example, like, hey, we know you're having a ton of trouble falling asleep. So every night this week, I am going to hold you accountable to meditating before you go to bed. Throw that in the tracker and make sure they check their boxes. So pretty dope, because again, this allows us to hold clients accountable to so many different factors within their lifestyle. Because the reality is, for our clients, this is a whole ecosystem of things that will help create results. It's not just training and nutrition. So we need to take more than that into account. We're looking at hunger here. The reality is, in a fat loss phase, after the first couple weeks, hunger should generally be relatively high. I tell people usually like a 3 to 4 is pretty normal in a fat loss phase. I would maybe a 2.5 to a 3.5. 4 is getting pretty high unless you're getting pretty damn lean. But so this usually tells us like, okay, if we're not seeing big shifts here, but hunger is high consistently, we're probably still in a deficit. But also we need to look back at your food choices. Like, are you still selecting very satiated foods? Is fiber high? So on and so forth. But we also know, like, okay, if we see hunger suddenly fall off, like the last couple of weeks here, hunger has been a 3 to a 4, and all of a sudden it's a 1, and weight hasn't moved. Okay, there's probably some measurement error sneaking in. Like, if your macros are still on point, there's probably some measurement error sneaking in here, and that is throwing off your progress. So this metric is very, very helpful. And then training performance and recovery ability. The reality is, like, again, if we're going through a fat loss phase, these are usually going to take a hit regardless. Just because we're taking in less energy, we have less recovery resources. So it makes sense that these would take a hit. In a building phase, we want to make sure that hunger is staying low and training performance and recovery ability are consistently high. All right, and then we have our periodization planner. So this is another thing that a huge part of my coaching service is this idea of periodization, especially within nutrition, but it's also important within training. So when we hop on the initial consultation call, when you're signing up for online coaching, we'll talk through, okay, here's what literally your next 6 months look like. And then I like to lay that out here. Now, this isn't set in stone because, again, we are working with individuals. Things always come up within your life. But I want to make sure the clients have a good idea of, this is almost like our roadmap. What do the next, 6 months, maybe even a year, what do those look like? How are we periodizing this? So, for example, here is generally when people start coaching with me, so more often than not, this would actually probably be, these first couple of weeks would typically be like a maintenance phase. So this would be our prepare phase. We're just getting the client ready, helping teaching them the behaviors that they need to like selecting adequate protein, hitting their movement goals, just basically making sure your client is good with all of these. They have all these habits on lock before we push for a fat loss phase. And then I generally do work with clients that want to get leaner or more like create a body recomposition. So from there, we'll typically go into a fat loss phase. So this is just laying out, okay, we have 3 weeks of accumulation, 1 week of deload, and I think across the course of all this, that's how I have this laid out. Focusing on fat loss, hypertrophy. Okay, now we're going to take a 2-week diet break here, and we're deloading your training. Then we're going back to another hypertrophy phase, keep pushing the fat loss, deload training. Okay, now we have 12 weeks of hypertrophy. We should probably dial back the volume a little bit, focus on strength, but we're going to keep pushing the fat loss here. And then we're going to deload, shift back to hypertrophy. We're going to take a couple weeks at maintenance here. So again, we have another diet break here. And again, so here it looks like how I laid this out was like just, and diet breaks I don't always, and again, taking it back to like, this is very individual. Generally, I like every 6 to 12 weeks for a diet break, depending on the client. That does very much depend on biofeedback that I gauge in my weekly check-in. So where is hunger? Where is motivation? Where is mood? How are your energy levels? Different things like that. So it's very much into account like our day-to-day conversations and the client's weekly check-in, not just these numbers here, but these help a lot as well. So keep in mind, this is all just an example, not how we would lay it out for every single client. So from there, again, we're finishing up hypertrophy maintenance. And then this is, okay, so after 20 weeks, the client has achieved their end goal. They've gotten as lean as they want. Our fat loss phases are over. We've taken a couple diet breaks. Now we're going to spend a week at maintenance. And then we are going to start our reverse diet. So reverse dieting, continue with hypertrophy. So this is a client that mostly wants to build lean muscle. And then, okay, we've pretty much hit what we think is the top end of your maintenance. Now we're going to transition you to a lean gains phase where we're focusing on just a slow rate of gain, so 0.25 to 0.5% of body weight per week. And we're really going to push to keep building more lean muscle. So from there, that is essentially how the periodization planner works. Super cool. Again, a relatively new feature that I've added here. This is something that I always talk through with clients, but I like having it here along the side so people can actually see, okay, this is exactly what my plan looks like laid out in my tracker. And then we hit this tab here, we have progress tracker. So here we are taking both body measurements and progress pictures. Shout out to my client, Rachel. She just crushed it and is my sample for progress pics. So here is just basically how, where I have my clients take body measurements. I have them take these weekly. We take progress pictures monthly. These are a lot more so than weight, what I gauge most of my clients' progress off of. Again, I usually work with more intermediate to advanced individuals, a lot of coaches. So generally in situations like that, we don't have a huge amount of weight to lose. So these measurements become more and more important. And the dope thing here, again, we can scroll here and we can see our first week compared to every week going forward. And again, these are huge for people because often we'll see like, okay, across the course of 6 weeks, I have only lost 3 pounds. But then if we actually compare side by side your measurements, we'll see big differences here, especially around the navel. So I truly believe for most clients, especially for fat loss clients, measurements make a huge difference. And again, they are a lot more so than weight, what I will adjust nutrition off of. And the progress pictures just give your clients a great visual benchmark to see their progress as well. Just gives us other metrics outside of the scale. All right, so in a nutshell, that is how I lay out my progress tracker. Again, if there's one thing that I can correlate with my clients being super successful, it's literally just filling out this tracker with crazy consistency. All right, so I hope you took value from this. I hope this was helpful, and I hope this makes you a better coach and helps your clients get better results going forward. If you want to experience this firsthand, what it's like to be coached by me, to have me lay out months of periodization within your nutrition and your training, just hit the link below to apply for online coaching with me.